I get the goal of packing light, but still I have a fear. Where can I find the room to pack that nifty souvenir? Let's talk. Welcome back to My Travel Window, the show that's all about expanding your travel horizons and maximizing your travel window. Today's topic is souvenirs, like this one from Bavaria. If you've been with us on previous episodes, you know that we're firm believers in packing light. We've done trips to Europe anywhere from 10 days to 6 weeks, packing just a carry-on and a backpack each. Now, while most people focus on how limiting that can be for clothes or accessories to take, we soon realized it also severely limits what souvenirs we could bring back. So this show is about 7 different approaches to that topic and is meant to spur your thinking about what might be important to you and how you might handle it. Strategy 1. Think small. This is the most obvious and my wife's current favorite strategy. She's always loved mementos that commemorate the places we visit. Over the years, she's collected Christmas ornaments from various places or refrigerator magnets. In latter years, she switched to items of jewelry. For friends, she finds things like bookmarkers, cosmetic mirrors, or small lace items. But it doesn't have to be quite that small. When we made our first trip to Europe, she particularly wanted a memento of Paris and settled on a Starbucks coffee mug. Mugs are easy to pack because you can stuff them with socks and bury them in the clothes. Starbucks is everywhere. So over the next several vacations, she returned with mugs, as you can see, from Czech Republic, Austria, Hungary. Starbucks eventually discontinued this series, so she had to branch out to other mugs, like this one from our trip this year. Strategy 2. Buy Wearables. As a photographer, I've never stressed a lot over souvenirs because photos are my mementos. But for our first trip to Europe, and I thought it'd be our only one, I decided I wanted something unique for the trip. I settled on a hat. It was practical, kept my bald head from sunburning, and I liked the look. I bought it in London, so decided a British driving hat was the ticket to go. I loved the hat so much, I eventually wore it out. Our second trip to Europe was a cruise starting in Greece, so I bought a Greek fisherman's hat at the shop in the Plaka in Athens. Again, a great success. I enjoyed the experience of selecting it, loved wearing it, realized after the fact I could always tell what trip I was on by what hat I was wearing. So now this became the standard for every trip. You've seen most of these hats in the video so far. This one I bought in Vienna, Austria, or the wool hat I bought for our Scottish trip. Then, of course, the maroon one purchased in Paris across the street from Notre Dame. And lastly, the Italian-made Panama hat that you saw at the start of this episode. The salesman said it would fold well for packing. I disagree with that claim. Of course, hats aren't the only option. One other choice is to leave out a clothing item or two and simply buy them on the trip, like a logo t-shirt or a blouse from Paris. In my case, it would be anything I can pack into the huge pocket of my travel vest for the airport trip. Strategy 3. Ask for help. The picture on the wall behind me is my favorite souvenir of Prague. It's a painting sold by a small shop at one end of the Charles Bridge, which is the main feature of the picture. I really wanted it, but I thought I had no way to get it home. I told the vendor, who explained that he had just the answer. He has small, hard cardboard tubes. To my surprise, he wrapped up the picture more tightly than I thought possible and placed it carefully into the tube. It was a challenge, but I got it packed and got it home, then took it to a craft store for the nice frame you see here. It was worth it. Strategy 4. Exchange it. 2 of our friends like to travel to senior sports events where most of the clothing is very casual, but they need room for sports gear and they want room for souvenirs. So, before the trip, they go to a thrift shop, purchase ultra-cheap casual clothes. They wear these for the vacation and they buy souvenirs. When it comes time to come home, they simply leave the clothing behind, exchanging the clothing space for souvenir space. Strategy 5. Rent it. This doesn't involve mementos, but it does involve packing, especially for a variation in climate. Relatives from Australia came to the U.S. during our summer, but they like to do a little mountain hiking while they're here. It's tough to pack enough clothes for all that variation. So when they arrive in the USA, they go again to a thrift store and buy jackets for the mountain hikes. After they wear the jackets, they return them to the thrift store for someone else to buy. Effectively, they've just rented clothes. Similarly, some cruise ships used to have formal apparel rental shops on board. That way, the people could dress up but not have to use luggage space for items used only once or twice on the cruise. Most of these have been discontinued now that shops have moved away from strict formal dress, but there may still be some of that possibility. Strategy 6. Ship it. Just before we left on one of our trips, my boss handed me $200 and said, "Bring me back a souvenir. I don't even care what it is, you pick." This was stressful as I was not sure of his taste. But when we arrived in Bavaria, we found something that looked perfect. The armored knight that you saw in the original, or very much like the one you saw in the original opening. Knowing I would not be able to put it in our luggage, we purchased the knight. Then we went to a post office and had it shipped back home. It was expensive, but it was worth it. A word of caution. We've heard stories of people buying Turkish rugs or blown glass and having the locals offer to ship it for you. Occasionally it never arrives, and at that point, when you're back home, you have little or no recourse. Be careful. Strategy 7. Stow it. This is our newest strategy and one we plan to try for the first time later this year. Our current plan is a short cruise, followed by a land trip of about a week, then a transatlantic cruise home. With so much time on the cruise ships, we've actually considered taking more luggage for more formal attire and less washing. But for the land option, I really don't want to haul the extra luggage everywhere. We discovered that major cities in Europe often have lockers that one can rent to stow luggage. So, at the end of the first cruise, we plan to stow the large piece of luggage, travel light, then return and pick it up for the cruise home. We'll let you know how it works. Let me know in the comments what you think of these ideas and if you have any more that could add to the list. Until next time, happy travels.